Hi, I'm wanting to talk today about soul fragmentation and healing. And I've done another video on soul fragmentation before, and I will link that below so that you can watch that if you're interested. I'm realizing this camera is taking away almost all of the color that is left in my face, but that's how it is. So I want to start out by reading something from A Course in Miracles, which I find relevant to this. Give me a sec. Yep. So I'm going to read now from A Course in Miracles. Though the ego takes many forms, it is always the same idea. What is not love is always fear and nothing else. It is not necessary to follow fear through all the circuitous routes by which it burrows underground and hides in darkness, to emerge in forms quite different from what it is. Yet it is necessary to examine each one as long as you would retain the principle that governs all of them. When you are willing to regard them not as separate but as different manifestations of the same idea and one you do not want, they go together. So the reason I wanted to read that specific part is I think when we talk about soul fragmentation, it's you can apply that to soul fragmentation. I should start out by saying, so some of you might not be familiar with A Course in Miracles or might not have read it. So I should say that in A Course in Miracles, when it refers to fear, it refers to something that is ultimately an illusion, although it can appear very real for us. And love, on the other hand, is the ultimate true reality. So basically, soul fragmentation, again, you can watch the video that I've done before on that. It refers to a kind of defense mechanism that can happen when we go through different traumas and it might be traumas that we've gone through from this life or another life. It can be big traumas or it can be fairly small events or things that happened to us but that impacted us in a way that was traumatic. So when we look at these soul fragmentations and we try to heal them or call these fragments back to us, it is useful to do this, but I think it is even more useful, and I had this kind of realization a couple of months ago when I was meditating, that it is more useful to see it in a way that we are already whole. That this soul fragmentation only happened in the world of illusion. So it is not your true reality. In the true reality and our true identity of oneness with Source, this fragmentation never happened. So that's another thing that A Course in Miracles talks about, that in this reality with a small r, in this 3D reality, we seem separated. We often seem separated, and that's why we are often in a state of fear if we don't realize our oneness with Source. But the ultimate reality, although it can be hard to kind of fully realize while we're here, but the ultimate reality is that we never left source. So our higher self and our soul still dwells in source. You can call it God, you can call it Sophia, whatever name you put on it. You can also call it love, infinite love. We never left that. We are always a part of that, and our higher self and our soul was never fragmented. It was just something that we perceived in this dimension, if you like. So the soul fragmentation only happened in our perception of separation from source. So it's not that it's not useful to look at the specific instances or fragmentations that happened, because it can be very useful in terms of calling, working through those issues and calling those fragments back to us, or perceived fragments. But there is a balance, and that's why I mean that this quote from A Course in Miracles is useful, is that it's not necessary to follow fear through all the circuitous routes, where it hides in darkness or underground in our subconscious. But we can still examine each one as long as we retain the principle that it all comes from the perception of separation. So the bottom line is we are already whole. So instead of starting with the false premise that we are damaged or fragmented and trying to heal that, we can start with presuming, even if we don't fully believe it yet, we can still start with presuming that we are already whole, even while we still work on healing ourselves and healing our traumas, this life or past life. We can still have the underlying realization and start out from that realization that we are already whole. And I was even talking to a friend the other day, who is also into a lot of this work and does a lot of shadow work and things like that. And she was saying to me that don't you sometimes also get tired of yourself like I do when it comes to all this shadow work and all of this spiritual work? Don't you just sometimes want to take a break for a day or two or even a week and just realize that you're fine as you are? It's not necessary to constantly go into these shadows or work through these issues, because after a while, I mean, it is very useful, do not get me wrong, but it's a balance. Like after a while it can get tiring, and you can actually realize that another thing that the Course in Miracles says is like, look at the cross but don't dwell on it. So for us to not, I think it's useful to not get stuck in the shadow work and stuck in the working through the traumas and this and that issue. And even while we still feel affected by those issues, still just realizing that we are whole and we are fine just as we are. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about today. And I hope that was useful, and I will see you soon. Bye.